Our next speaker, I think it's an incredible pleasure, an incredible, exceptional situation that we have with our next speaker. Someone that is the special envoy for the program in the Netherlands called Startup Delta, former head of cabinet for Nelly Cruz from the European Commission, founder of Startup Fest Europe, and in general, someone that has been fighting for his country to push the startup ecosystem higher and higher. As with his own words, he described it, we want to create the West Coast within the Netherlands. Please give an incredible and warm hello to His Royal Highness, Prince Constantijn of the Netherlands.
Hi. Thanks for having me, and excuse me, I will kind of be a bit on the policy side of things. So I won't be telling you about how we're going to land on the moon, on Mars, and all that, and where the next technology is going to drive us for the coming 20 years. What I really want to look at is what it is to be an entrepreneur in Europe. So what could make Europe successful? We always see this comparison with Silicon Valley, with other places. What is it that actually we have that is competitive? And for that, I want to focus on mind frames. For instance, take this South Summit. It's, if you look at it, it sounds very reasonable if you are from the Netherlands that you call this South Summit. It's pretty unreasonable if you look at the map and you think that Spain is pretty much in the north of the world. So is it because it is South America? Is that the link? So South, and in fact, if you're in Bali, South means that you're under the summit, because the summit is the holy mountain of Agung. And for them, it means under the summit. So you'd be very strange to call that a South Summit. So everything is framed. The Netherlands is a small country. So I try to say, well, no, we're actually the west coast of Europe. And doesn't stop with our borders, because we've got Germany, we've got Belgium, and all of these countries. Actually, a lot of that is coming together in our region of Europe. It's not about these boundaries. So what I want you to know and what you feel is that, in fact, we set the frames. And we are all actually at the center of the world. Nowadays, technology allows us to be at the center of the world. It allows us to reach out to anywhere in the world. It allows us to explore things we couldn't explore before. It also allows us to connect with people that are not in our vicinities, but are everywhere. So what's important is that how we frame ourselves actually allows us to box ourselves in or liberate us. It's also when we look at Silicon Valley and Europe, we look at Silicon Valley, we see shining big companies, we see this great success, masses of venture capital going into incredible entrepreneurs. And we look at Europe and you see it's old and slow and bureaucratic. On the other hand, if you go to Silicon Valley, you can also look at it through another lens. You can see that there's a water problem, there's a transport problem, there's an education problem, there's everything when it comes to the public sector is in a really dire state. And notwithstanding that, it's producing these incredible companies and allow people to dream big, and amazing things have happened over there. So what happens is that we as Europeans, we tend to go to Silicon Valley and we try to pick it, and we come back and we say, oh, we have to do this too. We have to build Silicon Valley in Europe. And I always caution when I hear that, and I say, well, it's fine, we can look at Silicon Valley, and the conclusion should be just kill the government. Because the government is not a factor that's driving Silicon Valley, where that is very different, obviously, in Europe. But you can also look east. You can look at China, what China is doing. It's doing amazing stuff. And you see the speed of innovation and growth in China is really incredible. And the surface, the sheer surface that is covered by companies and businesses and research centers that are innovating is mind-boggling. But then we know that there's a downside to that too, strong government involvement. And does the government, is that the best position to choose winners? You'll have a lot of nepotism and other things coming in. So my plea would be Europe should go its own way. Europe has strong governments, very strong institutions, have incredible potential. And if we don't just get stuck in the process, if we don't get stuck in looking at Europe only from the negative side, but actually try to focus on what is good. We actually see that in all the charts and all the indexes, the European countries are actually dominating in sense of competitiveness, in innovation, in quality of life and those matters. So it's just a matter of perception. And that is important because the way you frame these things and also the time frame you take for your policy settings will determine where we end. So whatever we do today, our acts today, and the way we frame where we are busy with will determine where we end up in 5, 10, and 20 years. And I think it's important that our policymakers therefore think a bit more like startups in a way, that they allow themselves to think big, and define a purpose, and then plan ahead, but also act now. Act means invest in talent, invest in those inputs that are essential for our countries to be more competitive. Because if the EU fails, and we've seen a lot of that, and we have a lot of discussion around that in Europe recently, then we did it to ourselves. We did it because we were focusing on process. We did it because we were focusing on our internal problems. We did it because we've got values that we didn't apply. We did it because we don't trust in our strength. But we can also choose a different way. We can also choose Europe as a platform for innovation, a platform for growth, a market where our startups can actually grow and find new markets, where you can actually feed off all of the innovation, all the scientific prowess that is actually apparent on the continent. And there's really no reason why not. We've got great companies. We have ARM, we have ASML, we have Booking.com in the Netherlands, we have BlaBlaCar, you have everywhere, and masses of the companies here prove that it is actually possible. And it is the mindset, if you want to be in that space, if you want to compete globally, that is important to make it happen. And we've seen in London, fintech coming up, and London is an international hub when it comes to VC, when it comes to startups. We see Berlin coming up. We've seen Stockholm very strong. There's no reason why Stockholm would be such a successful hub, but it is because entrepreneurs are collaborating with VC and are making incredible companies possible. So what should be done from the government side? Because I'm a representative of Startup Delta. We are a government-initiated public-private partnership because the government acknowledged that they didn't really have the tools or the insights or the networks to reach out into the communities of startups. And they felt that it was important that this topic that didn't get enough political attention would get political attention and would be put on the map. And that we would look at at basically the whole journey of an entrepreneur from the start, from gathering the skills to an exit, and see where are the barriers and to address those. That is possible. You can do that. If a government takes the perspective of can-do, if they take that mindset, if they take the mindset of learning from what's going on, and not just saying, well, it's in Silicon Valley, we have to copy Silicon Valley, and put a lot of money against that. Or if they say it's impossible to copy China because we don't have that kind of money. But if you actually look at where the energy is, and it's with the entrepreneurs, it's with the VC, it's with also in science, then work around that. And it's no rocket science to do so. We can actually look at Silicon Valley and see, well, what is good there? Well, what is really good is the University of Stanford, is it Berkeley, it's the networks, it's venture capitalists being entrepreneurs themselves, these repeat entrepreneurs that are enabled by the system. We tend to discourage them through taxes, but it's possible. If you look at the UK has also introduced tax systems that actually allows you to reinvest, and that is extremely important. So there's a lot you can do. You can look at Scandinavia, where networks having these enforced each other and empowered each other to create great companies. You can look at Tel Aviv. There's no reason why Tel Aviv would be successful if you look at it on all objective terms. But they've managed, in combination with the government, in combination with some very powerful entrepreneurs, and also an outreach into other innovation hubs, like Silicon Valley, and other pools of funding. And they've managed to do so. So my plea is not only that it can be done, it has been done, and if we don't do it, then the world is going to move on. This is a global play. everywhere in the world. We see incubators, accelerators, startup programs emerge, and it has never been this easy to start a company anywhere in the world and service a market anywhere in the world, and at a cost that is highly, highly compatible. So we can do it, as long as our egos don't get in the way, our politics don't get in the way, and our politicians and policymakers actually make this a priority and say that entrepreneurs are actually driving this innovation. That if we want what Singularity University is telling us, that means not only science, that means applied science, because the costs need to go down. The cost of supply and demand need to go down so that you can actually share the technologies and the businesses among the people in the broadest possible sense. And I think we owe it. We owe it to the young. We owe it to the entrepreneurs. We owe it to ourselves that we make this possible. So if a government doesn't acknowledge this, and I don't know how many government officials are in this room, just by looking at you, I think most people here are entrepreneurs. But then why don't you come here? And we're going to have a commissioner on stage who fully understands this, and who from Europe tries to enhance this. And it's not easy and not difficult. I mean, we've got the blueprint ready. There is a scale-up manifesto, and all the policy measures are actually there. It just requires you to make the priorities. For instance, opening up public procurement. Why is it so difficult for a government to allow startups to experiment and to work with them, to build prototypes and do procurement in that way, instead of the old-fashioned way that always favors the big companies? Why do we make our VAT so complicated in Europe? We can simplify that. Startup visa. Let startups. We all want these people. Let them move around freely. We want a startup visa in Europe. And just to say, in the Netherlands, we are currently pretty much in an upswing. I think we're doing pretty well, and we have a shortage of talent. Feed that need, feed that demand, and we find it extremely difficult to get those people. So we would love to get people that don't have work in, for instance, a country like Spain, to come to the Netherlands and work for our companies. And I think if government understands that this is an engine for jobs, that this is a future for the companies, future for the economy, and that we are actually in a global transition, a global technology transition, but also a global business transition that will have big shifts in political influence and strategic shifts that also will challenge our traditional industries that are still more or less in the industrial age. We have a Industry 4.0, but that is actually what we should have been doing in 2010. We're now in 2016, and we are beyond that. We are in a much more virtual space than we were when that concept was developed. So we need to move on. If we accept that, and if we accept that this impact of technology is going to be profound, then it's a no-brainer. And it's a long-term play. We know that for the coming 5, 10, 20 years, we need to be in this game. We need to develop those companies. We need to play that role, be it in Spain, be it in the Netherlands, be it in the UK, be it in the US, and we're all challenged by this. Because don't forget, Silicon Valley, Boston, New York, they in the US are outstanding places as well. If you are from Illinois or you're from Washington State, you are also trying to compete with these places. So all of the world is competing to be like that, and we are actually moving forward in that sense, and we are showing that we can do that. So, in my view, the key to success is only and solely in our minds. And we don't need to look anywhere else than there. So if you decide to aim low, it's likely that you will shoot low. If you say you can't, it's very likely that you won't. And if you say, yes, we can, then it's likely that I will respond to you, yes, we should. Thank you very much. And now I had 2 minutes to go. You were not ready for that, were you?
I was ready. I was ready. I was just chatting with the band.
Ah, okay.
We were about to, play something for you, but
the band's gone?
No, the band is coming back.
Okay, okay. So
they're here. They're here for you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So
What are they going to play? National anthem?
I don't know. Maybe we can ask them. Star Wars? What's?
No, I'm not a Trekkie and not a Star Wars fan either.
Okay, man. Give me track. What do you want to play?
Something Spanish.
Something Spanish. Okay, guys. Something Spanish. You can do that? Okay. Something Spanish? Like what? What? La Macarena? Macarena, everyone?
But that's.
Come on, guys. One Macarena.
But only if you dance the Macarena.
I'll dance to the Macarena. Don't worry. Can we have some Macarena? Yeah, we want to dance Macarena. Hey, come on, play us. Come on. Come on, guys. Let's do this. Everyone remember? There you go. There we go. Yeah, well, it's a version. It's kind of a version. Dame tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena. Hey! There we go. Thank you very much, guys. Your Highness, big pleasure. Thank you very much for being here. It's a very big pleasure having you here. Hope you're enjoying, and you keep enjoying.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guys, big applause, please.